It's your man Jay Graves Report, and welcome to the College Football Weekly Wrap-Up Week 9, presented by your good neighbor State Farm agent Ravi R. Murray, located 3955 Eagle Creek Parkway, Indianapolis, or hit your boy up at 317-297-3804. Y'all know how we get it in, so let's get it in. Wrapping up the top 5 ball games of the weekend, so let's get right to it. Now, you boys gonna start listening to me, bruh. I went 4-1 this weekend. Almost had to hew the biggest upset of the season. Almost went down on my watch, and I called it. But them Duns let them off the hook. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Now, let's go to the first ball game. We out in the Big Ten. We go out to Ohio Stadium, where Northwestern came in to play number 6 Ohio State. Now, Ohio State wins this ball game 24-20. Ohio State was dud. I picked them to win, but they was dud. Last week they lost to Penn State. Then they come in here this weekend and struggle with Northwestern. It's going to be a problem come late November when the Michigan Wolverines roll into town. If you struggling with these boys and losing to Penn State, it's going to be dud. That's all I got to say. Because right now, the boys from up top are rolling right now. Hey, but they struggled. They had, in this ball game, they had at one point, they went 5 possessions with 5 punts against Northwestern, bro. What's going on out in Columbus, bro? These boys falling apart. It's going to be a problem. That's all I'm saying. Don't worry about where the game is. I know it's at Ohio State, but it might be a problem if they don't get it together. Now, let's move on to the next ball game. We got number 2, Michigan goes up to East Lansing to play Michigan State. Now, Michigan wins this ball game 32-23. We can now officially call Michigan State the little brothers again. And they're going to be the little brothers for about the next 10 years, bro. Until Jim Harbaugh decides he don't want to coach no more. And that'll probably be in another 10 years or so. They're going to be dull. Because, like I told you before, the only reason that Michigan State was relevant over the last 8 or 9 years is because Michigan was not relevant because they had dud coaching from the time they hired Rich Rodriguez and fell apart because that dud didn't understand the tradition nor the magnitude of coaching at Michigan. But now you got somebody who's a Michigan man back at the helm wearing some Malcolm X glasses and selling bean pies and boogers on the sideline. It's going to be a problem for Michigan State. The dub sparring out there butt naked with no muscles, no gear on or nothing. He out there dub, about to be dub for the next 10 years. Now, so let's move on to the next ball game. And by the way, I picked this ball game, but I thought that Michigan was going to put about 70 points on these boys, but they took it easy on them and just went out there and just rubbed them on top of the head. Now, let's move on to the next ball game. We got number 4, Washington, out in the Pac-10, went out to play number 17, Utah. Now, Washington came into this ball game undefeated. Chris Peterson has these boys rolling. Like I told you before, if you don't remember who Chris Peterson was, he was the dud that had Boise State rolling a few years ago, knocking off everybody when they played them on neutral sites and at the crib. He would never go out and play nobody on the road. But I understood. He was trying to get a job, trying to increase his stock so it didn't make sense for him to go play a boy at their own home. You know what I mean? But he goes out there and wins this ball game 31-24, remains undefeated. Like I told you before, Washington is going to be one of those teams going to end up in the college football playoff because more than likely they're going to win the Pac-10. Nobody's going to threaten them in the the Pac-12. So it is what it is. This ball game was a tie ball game all the way up until Dante Pettis took a 58-yard punt return to the house and called it lovely. So now, Washington wins this ball game. Let's move on to the next ball game. Now, let's go up to the Big Ten. We got number 7, Nebraska goes in undefeated to play number 11, Wisconsin. Now, I told you boys in the preview that Wisconsin was battle tested. They would win this ball game. They ended up winning it 23-17. The reason I was so confident in Wisconsin winning this game is because they've been battle tested. And they have already played 5. This would have been the 5th top 10 opponent that they played in 8 ball games. They played, at that time, number 5 LSU, which turned out to be dub. Then number 8 Michigan State turned out to be dub, but they was ranked in the top 10. Then you had Michigan at number 4 and Ohio State at number 2 at the time. So because they playing all these ranked opponents, highly ranked opponents early in the season, they were ready to roll. And it's very difficult to win ball games up at Camp Randall. So Wisconsin beats these boys in overtime, and now Nebraska goes duh, and we won't have to hear about Nebraska for the rest of the year because they won't be back in the hunt. No way they can get back in the hunt. The only team that can get back in the hunt in the Big Ten is Ohio State. But Ohio State has to win out. They have to beat Michigan last game of the season and win the Big Ten championship in order to get in. And that ain't going to happen the way these boys are playing right now. Now, let's move on to the next ball game. We got number 3, Clemson, goes out to Doak Campbell Stadium to play number 12, Florida State. Now, I picked Florida State to win this ball game because they've turned it around. Chief Osceola got out of jail about 3 weeks ago. He had a whole lot. He been pumping a little iron, got a little chest on him now. He done bagged a couple of boys off of him. So I figured that they would be able to come in this ball game, surprise Deshaun Watson and company, and go on. Now, they had them on the ropes. You know, DeAndre Francois, the ghetto Frenchman and company, had these boys on the ropes. Then they let them off the hook with 2 minutes left of the ball game, fell apart, wet the bed, however you want to call it. And now Deshaun Watson come out of this ball game with 430 yards total offense. He threw for 378, 2 touchdowns, and 2 dub picks. That's the reason why Florida State was in the ball game in the first place. But I do have to give Clemson and old Doug Dabo Swinney props because they came out, they playing tight ball games, and they winning these ball games. They're 16-2. Dabo Swinney is 16-2 in 9 seasons in ball games decided by a touchdown or less. So he's winning the critical ball games, the tight ball game, and this is the difference between a team that knows how to win and a team that's on the verge of winning championships. You know, these guys understand how to win. Florida State still young and confused and couldn't put these boys out. I mean, they had them on the ropes bleeding from the mouth, bruh. And then old Doug Chief Osceola falls off renegade. Fall off the horse. You all went to the doggone last stretch of the doggone race, last 100 meters, and that Doug fall off the doggone horse. Hey, it's your man Jay Graves Report from TheJayGravesReport.com, and you can hit me up on Twitter at JayGravesReport so you can holler at your boy. And remember, this segment is always presented by your good neighbor, State Farm agent, Ravi R. Murray, located 3955 Eagle Creek Parkway, Indianapolis, or hit your boy up at 317-297-3804 so you can holler at your boy.